The Stags might be through to the second round of the FA Cup thanks to a 1-0 win at Barrow, but in league action, defeat to Bradford City thanks to an old hand means 2 successive losses at what was once an unbreakable home.
Didn't think we were out the blocks first half. Might have been a little bit of a hangover for the efforts on Saturday and everything and the travelling. We tried to freshen up with a few fresh pairs of legs, but I thought Bradford were sharper than us and better than us in the first half. We never really got going on the ball. We played the formation that we've played here. It's been successful quite a bit with a diamond, but that requires certain things, people running beyond, people being good on the ball. I've never seen us give the ball away as much in the first half and also just kick it out of play needlessly.
I have so many questions, so many we could be here until gone midnight. Don't worry, we'll be done in time to watch Matt Hancock eat kangaroo balls in the jungle though. Those questions include, do our players know the definition of the word shoot? Why is it blatantly obvious to everyone that we lack depth in certain areas, yet in 3 transfer windows now, it's never been addressed? What's this obsession with square pegs in round holes again, especially when there's young players itching to start? Well, I say young, he's 23, so prime age to be playing week in, week out. What on earth has Jason Law done? Oh, and probably the most controversial of them all, are we actually an average side who's been riding the crest of a wave and are now being caught out and dragged back to shore, being exposed what we actually are? Let us know your thoughts in the live feed and have your say on your team on the show for the fans, by the fans. This is the Mansfield Matters podcast, or probably this week, the Mansfield Matters Rantcast. Here we go then.
I think I've got 2 other questions that I want to add to that intro that you heard there. Number 1, why on earth does my microphone sound like it was underwater? Not a clue what was going off there. Need to get some more investment into this show. And number 2, will my electricity last for the hour's show that we're about to do? So I'm going to let you in behind the curtain a little bit before we introduce tonight's guests. Exactly this time last night, myself and the 2 guests who are going to join me this evening were sat having our little pre-podcast chat, talking about what we're going to talk about in the show and just sort of generally catching up with each other, when all of a sudden darkness hit around me. I was just about to press go live and darkness hit around me. I thought, that's strange. What's gone off there? And it turns out that in the Mansfield Matters HQ, well, power had tripped, and let's just say 3 hours later, an electrician came out on call and somehow managed to fix it, and we're still none the wiser as to what actually tripped it in the first place. Maybe, I've got a sneaking suspicion, it might have been Nick and Alan who joined us tonight. It may well have been their pre-match or pre-podcast chat which they were talking about, because they were talking about that horrible, boring paint drying sport, cricket. And I think my electricity just thought, do you know what, Craig, I'm going to do you a favour. Great. Just to put you to rest, I've got a backup generator ready to go. So fingers crossed, we should be all right for the next 90 minutes or so.
90 minutes?
Wow. You see, just making sure you're listening.
I'm listening.
There you go.
Especially when you call in the cricket. Me and Nick like cricket, and they're doing really well. And a local lad has done good again, and it's something to, congratulate him on.
I just need to pull this plug out again. Right. Anyway, let's move it back to football. Alan, it's great to see you as always, the only regular member of the Mansfield Matters podcast panel this week that seemingly can be bothered. Of course, Nathan's flown over to Spain to do whatever he's doing over there. Cam's watching Hollyoaks, and I think Clive's got a prior engagement tonight, so they can't join us to talk all things Mansfield Town. So we've drafted who we think is arguably the best substitute this season that we're ever going to find. Nick of Mansfield Town shirts fame, back for, I think, what's this? Is this a hat-trick ball, or is this number 4 now? Number 4?
Number 4. Yeah.
Oh.
You've done what Clough has not managed to do, and that's make a substitute.
Well, there you go.
That has an effect. So
I mean,
we're in already.
I'm going to be honest, the January transfer window is just around the corner, and I was doing some tallying up earlier on. I actually genuinely think that you may well have been on the podcast the same number of time that Cam's been on this series now. So, and actually managed to stay on for, all the way through the podcast. So I think, we might have to do some negotiating in the transfer window. So there we go. Right, let's address the elephant in the room, and I think it's that's over your shoulder, Nick. It's the Andy Cook shirt. Obviously, you're famed for your Mansfield Town shirt collection. Talk us through why on earth you've decided to throw petrol on the fire by having the Cook shirt in the background.
I thought there was no more appropriate one for this week than Mr. Cook himself. I knew it was going to happen. I think I put something on Instagram. I think I put, I wonder if we're going to keep him quiet. I just knew we wouldn't, and we didn't, did we? So that was the end of that. He just seems a lot fitter and nimbler than when he played for us, but that's often the case, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's the time of season as well, Alan, isn't it? We've seen it with Cook before. He has a really good start, and then he dwindles off. But it's that old club factor, the ex-club factor, and all of that sort of stuff. He is on fire at the moment. He's enjoying the best spell of his career, and it was inevitable that he was going to score. I just think that James Perch will be probably waking up crying at some point, outpaced, outmuscled by Andy Cook. Not Perch's finest moment in a Mansfield shirt, it has to be said.
No, but up until then, I think Arbottle had done well to keep him relatively quiet. But, it was that one moment, weren't it? One moment of madness where he turned him inside out, and it was a good shot. I didn't actually see the ball whether it went under Christy Pym's legs or, how he couldn't get it, whether it was too powerful. I wasn't sure because I was just sorting some stuff out in the box. But I saw him, muscle Perch off the ball, and it was just one of those things, I'm afraid. But like I say, up until then, I think Arbottle had kept him reasonably quiet.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, Nick, were talking about the formation and things at half-time and after the game. And actually, I felt that with the restrictions we had with McLaughlin not being available and things like that, going to the back four was a sensible thing to do. It just seemed to go wrong after the back four. The back four itself was a stable choice, but it was the rest of them in front which didn't sort of make sense again.
Yeah, I didn't mind the back four. I mean, one thing I thought that we would have done is kept, and I have been a critic of Hawkins at centre back, but I thought with the physicality of Cook and the height of Cook that we might have gone with Hawkins in that back four, but he didn't. But it seemed to be from there that we were just too narrow against a wide team, and they exposed us exactly the same last season. I remember we tried to play Clark on the right-hand side to cover Hewitt, and if you remember their wing, I think it was Vernon on the left-hand side. They just were they play very wide and we play very narrow, and they seemed to exploit us, but we couldn't use that advantage in the middle, and just seemed to be too many central midfielders playing who all wanted to occupy the same sort of 15 square yards of turf and ignored the rest of it, and that kind of, I think, was our downfall.
I don't know whether Nigel Clough will sort of play the injury card, Alan, because I'm in agreement with Nick that Hawkins probably should have started at centre half to compete with Andy Cook, but as we sort of saw, he wasn't moving very well. He basically said that Clough basically said that Hawkins said he'd be all right for 5-10 minutes to come on and head it, but not be able to run, and that's a risk to do. But then I guess the question on the back of that is, all right, well, if he's not available, who do you think your next strongest, burliest centre half is in line? It's John Joe O'Toole, and again, he doesn't get a look in. Even when we make changes, it's not O'Toole who comes on; it's Clark who goes to centre half.
Yeah, and I just thought it was a bit strange. I mean, I was same as Nick. Why didn't he play Hawkins? But obviously, we found out later on. But I mean, why risk him? He's a very influential player that we need. we need that sort of play and we need him to be fit. So why not drop Gale on the bench? Or like you said, bring O'Toole on if need be. But Gale wasn't even on the bench. I don't know whether he's injured or, whether, for whatever reason he wasn't on the bench. But, I mean, he's done reasonably well when he's come on. So get lad a chance.
Yeah, we're going to delve into some of your comments in just a minute. Keep them coming in. Have your say on your team. Get them in the comments now. Nick, I think another point on that is there seems to be more and more frustration growing towards Clough and his team selection and who he's not giving chances to. Because I think Alan makes a great point there. If Hawkins is, struggling, you've got younger players who are desperate to come in and make their mark. And James Gale sort of ticks that box. And you do sort of wonder why those opportunities aren't coming and why he insists in, again, going with square pegs round holes, because it's not like we didn't have strikers because we brought 2 on. Shame they both went to wing back.
Yeah, it seemed like it was the perfect opportunity if you're going to bring those 2 on to put them as wingers with Swan in the middle and just rearrange the midfield, and you've got a reasonably mobile 4-3-3 going on there that would have countered their width a little bit. And initially I thought that was what they were going to do, and then I reminded myself that that's probably not going to that's not what we're going to we're not going to do. It just seems to. I just thought somebody like Jason Law in that centre. They played Boateng in the first half as that left-sided centre mid, and he was desperate to cut in to the middle. And then they had Clark on the right-hand side who did exactly the same. He wanted to cut into the middle as well. I just thought somebody who maybe even the likes of Stephen Quinn, who's used to playing a little bit wide, although he's certainly not on his best season. But if you're going to try and play a diamond, you need someone in the middle who's willing to at least run outside a little bit to help the fullbacks. And I thought they were exposed quite heavily. Every opportunity they had, it was 2-on-1 against our fullbacks on both sides. And that was probably after minute 5, you could see that was happening. And it just seems like we have the players to fit the formations he wants to play, but it seems to be down to personalities rather than ability or positional sense that they end up being selected, which is a strange one.
Yeah, very strange one considering the time of season as well. We'll delve a little bit more into that in a while. Let's address some of the comments that are flooding in. Matt says Perch's legs looked to have gone. The second yellow last week, that goal on Tuesday. Kevin says we need a bigger squad in Jan and stop putting square pegs in round holes. Daniel asks, where's Clive? Normally he's coy with voicing his opinions, but as of late we're on the same hymn sheet. Clive unavailable for selection tonight. And also, Alan, isn't he? He's serving a 1 podcast ban for abusing the admin, isn't he, in the group chat?
Yeah, we won't go into that, Craig. People don't need to know about that.
No, not happy. If you abuse me in the group chat, that's what happens. I'll kick you off. There are plenty of people who are more than capable of coming in and doing a superb job like Nick, who, is just begging for a seat. He's basically, Nick is the Jason Law of this podcast this season. He's got all the talent, all the ability, he's just not getting the opportunities. And when he gets them, he's shining. So, you're right with that comparison, Nick, yeah?
I absolutely. I'm happy to be. I sat on the bench, just waiting if you want me. Or not even on the bench, in the stand.
The virtual bench. We'll call it the virtual bench. Daniel adds, I personally think Clough has let our club down. We struggled at the beginning of last season due to injuries, and we haven't learned our lesson. I actually think, Alan, it's a fair point.
It is. And also, I did notice one thing, and the son-in-law noticed it as well on on Tuesday night, that whenever Elliot Hewitt's playing on the left, he comes out with the ball, and with him being right-footed, he's got to go either inside or he turns around and passes the ball back. He's not managing to get forward. And I think, why not give Jason Law a chance? His left foot, he's got a nice left foot on him. He's played in that position before. Give the lad a chance.
Yeah, we have to look at that balance because, again, on Tuesday, Nick, we had no natural left-sided balance until Stephen Quinn came on, and it was very, very frustrating. Because like Alan says, every time we wanted to attack through Hewitt, who I think, in my opinion, is our best attacking defender at the minute, especially one down that right-hand side, but because he's on the left, defenders know he's going to turn back inside. He's got no option, and straight away, him doing that loses us 3-4 seconds, and they're back in, especially the quicker teams.
Yeah, and I'm not the biggest fan of Kieran Wallace, and I don't think he's one of our best players. But he played left back a couple of games ago at home, and I know he hooked him off at half time. But I thought he did absolutely fine. He's strong enough in the air. He's not slow, and he's left footed. And for me, he's filled in at left back before and could have done. Jason Law would have been a shout. He's played left back before, more of a wing back, granted, but it is the square pegs again, isn't it? It's the fact that Hewitt has been playing brilliant as a right-sided centre half or a right back, and we forced him again into a position where he's not natural in, and like Alan said, he had to cut on his right foot numerous times, and your fullback knows exactly what you're going to do, so they defended it. And it was quite simple.
I do wonder, Alan, if we should have perhaps gone for more of a 4-3-3 with, like Nick says, and a lot of people don't rate Kieran Wallace. I actually do. I think I'm in that camp that sees the potential that he's got. Clough dragged him off after 45 last time because, he was blowing a little bit and he's not got the pace in there for 90. Could have probably got through 60. I'd have put him at left back, Quinn on the left side of a midfield 3, and then Bowery on the left-hand side of a forward 3, and then that can drop into a condensed 5 across the midfield and sort of block it off a little bit, just to give us that little bit of balance, because we don't necessarily have to have, when we play in a back 4, the right back and the left back pushing up the pitch, do we, Alan? They're there to sit and defend. Let the midfielders do that, especially when you've got the players like Boateng and Hartigan who are itching to go and get forward, and Maris at every given opportunity.
And I think it's just, it's like, how can I put it? It's like the part of the game when, when they go a goal up, things do sometimes have to change, because if it doesn't change, we're going to lose at least 1-0. And I thought with him putting Harbottle on the right side, he looked quite satisfied with that, because that's the place he's used to playing. Yeah. But it's like you said, I think we just need to sort the Macca, because the balance is way off. There's no balance when Macca can't play. And I know sometimes you can't get the player in, for whatever reason in the transfer window. They may have tried before, they may have tried for a left back, but we need to sort it out, sooner rather than later, because these things are going to keep happening, I think, or it looks like they are, because we have the Swindon, we have the Bradford. I wouldn't say, I think they were the better team than us on the night, but on the whole, I don't think any of them are any better than what we are when we know we can play, when we do play, how we can play. But teams aren't letting us do that, and they're working us out.
It's almost at the minute, Nick, like we're on a seaside resort, we're in the arcade, and we put in 10p's in the 2p machine. It's the wrong size coin, and we're not getting any return from it.
I know there's an old adage of get your best players on the pitch, but when they're not in the right position, it's dead. We've seen Akins get slaughtered playing in a completely wrong position. Yeah. You had the same with Bowery. He's been, people have moaned at him, but he's playing fullback when he joined us as a sort of striker stroke winger. You've got Boateng who's playing some sort of left midfield role. You had Hewitt who was a right back, played centre back, and then now left back. It just seems like he needs to just take a step back and assess the right players in the right positions at the right time, and it's the forcing of the players into these positions, I think, that's just causing us the issues. They don't look like week in, week out they know where they're supposed to be, because they're so used to playing in either other positions, or I suppose when we've done well as a club, you could normally name the 11 pretty much the week before. And good sides you normally can, but on this one it seems like if you had a sweepstake every week, I don't think you'd ever get it right. Whereas we've been criticised under Evans and Flitcroft, etc., we seem to play the same team near enough if everyone was fit every week. Now, bar injuries, they just seem to get moved around, and you couldn't guess. So if we can't guess who's playing, I assume the players are exactly the same.
It must be so frustrating to be a player, Alan, because you might have an inkling that you're playing, but like, for example, Jordan Bowery, he wants to play up front, he wants to score goals. Lucas Akins will be desperate to try and make his mark and try and contribute with goals or assists by playing in a forward role. But every time their name's in the 11, it's almost like the heads are already half the way down, because they know they're just going to be playing out wide and in positions that they're not there. Jordan Barry is an out-and-out number 9, and like we said earlier, if he'd have been brought on in a more attacking position on Tuesday night, I think it would have basically counteracted what Bradford were offering.
I'm going to say, I think you're right there, 100% right. But like Nick said, with Barry playing out of position and Akins, it is a bit awkward for them, because they come on, they want to be in the team, whatever. So they will do as they are told. If he said go right back, you go right back or whatever, because they want to be in the team. Because when the other lads come back, they might not get that chance. And I think they're having to do, squared pegs in round holes, whatever you want to call it, until such times as, we get, reasonable people back from injury. But understanding about the JJ, I don't know. He hasn't had his best season because I don't think he's had a run in the side.
Yeah, and that's what he needs. And again,
Yeah.
like we said numerous times, it's also about the positioning as well. I think had he come on Tuesday night and slotted into a back four, I think everyone would have been like, yeah, that's the O'Toole we know, that's the O'Toole we love, because he's comfortable with that position. Nick, I want to get your opinions on Daniel's comment. We mentioned it earlier about sort of Clough potentially letting us down, sort of struggling since last season and things like that. I'll pop the comment back on screen for us now so you can see that. What's your views on what Daniel's had to say there?
It's a tough one because I do really like Clough, and I think I think his name protects him a little bit from some criticism. But I certainly wouldn't recommend we be getting rid of him or even think about that at the minute. But yeah, I think I think he's just making too many changes to the side, and I think that's the issue. Is that we're making too many changes, and we're not. He's not considering. He seems to just consider that quite stubborn. It seems in the approach of picking players, and really, I think that's the issue we've had. It's same with substitutions. It just seems very. Other teams fall behind. Hartlepool would be an example. They were all over the place. Hartlepool, and they made changes and the game changed. I know we made a mistake, but players come on and make a difference. Whereas our players come on and look a bit dejected. They come on in random positions. And I think that's my only criticism of Clough is the team selection and the substitutions. You might argue, well, what else does the manager do? But he obviously the players. I assume it seems like everyone seems to be still a cohesive unit. But his substitutions and team selection have left a lot to be desired. I think this season and last season as well.
Yeah, there are other questions I think about age which we need to perhaps address at some point as well, and players being potentially past their peak and need it freshen up. But I think that's a discussion for another day. One point I do want to put to you, Alan, is usually at home you can feel something sort of brewing. You can feel that spark. You can feel that energy. I have to say, even when Bradford went down to 10 men and when we got the goal back, I didn't think it was coming. Even when 10 minutes on that board went up, I think another
that was a surprise.
30 minutes it would deserve because they were ridiculous.
Yeah,
they were ridiculous.
Definitely.
Even if 30 minutes would have gone up, I don't think I felt it, and I've not felt like that at home for a very long time.
No, I know what you mean. The surge wasn't there, if you like.
It was last night in my electric. That's where it was. What happened?
Yeah, the surge, if that's the right word, it wasn't there. It didn't seem to be there. And the more, like you say, the more that they played, they didn't seem to be able to, put the ball in the net. Well, obviously they didn't. But the thing is, if they keep on going like that and teams are working us out, it's going to get worse and worse. So we need to, Nigel or whoever, Nigel, Andy, whoever, Crosby, needs to sort something out, which I'm sure they are doing, because it's just happening on a far too regular basis. And we'll see what happens at Rochdale tomorrow, i.e. the team and the play and the positions that they're playing in.
Keep your comments coming in. Have your say on your team. I'll get to some of them as quickly as I can. There's been one staring me in the face for the last 5 minutes from Paul, who says 19 players in the squad. Clough says it's enough. Sorry to tell you, but it's not. Also, his tactics are a joke. Not one since the 15th of October. We need a decent centre-half. Perch is far too slow, and so is Quinn. Going to be another season in League Two. This team isn't good enough for promotion. Let's address the first part of that, Nick. 19 players in the squad. Clough says it's enough. Paul doesn't think it is. I have to agree. I think we're too light. Even with the injury, even when you consider the injuries and players that are unavailable, if everybody was fully fit, I still think we're too light.
Yeah, if you look at 19 players, you had 11 plus 7. That's most of your squad used up already. We get one injury, and it seems like it's a real issue. And the problem is, some positions we have loads of cover, like central midfield. I'm adamant we signed a central midfielder too many in the summer, and that should have been another position. But yeah, you look at left back, and like Alan said, Macca's out for a game, and we look lost. We lose Rhys Oates, and we've looked lost. Albeit Swan has done really well, but again, he's not really a central striker to play on his own. So yeah, it doesn't seem enough to me. I think we've had managers who've had too many. Who've had like 29 at times. No names in particular. But there's got to be a middle ground somewhere where there are players that are willing to be a part of the squad and won't play every week, but are there to be called upon. You look at other squads when you used to see the programme, they always used to have a lot more than us, and that's the same this season. It seems like they've all got more options than we have.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's a strange one. Clough will go, well, if we had everybody back fit and everybody available, we would have like one or two too many. We might have in terms of numbers if that was the case, but we haven't, Alan, in terms of depth, and I think that's the key issue. McLaughlin's missing, so now at the moment we're either having to play Barry left fullback, left wing back, or Aikens left wing back, or Elliot Hewitt at left back, or Kieran Wallace at left back. Wallace, I think, is a good enough replacement, but he seems to be third or fourth choice in that particular list. When we can go and sign a free agent. We did it last year with John Joe O'Toole at pretty much the same time where we're talking now. He'd probably been in the building, 2 or 3 weeks, and was starting to make his impact. I think we need to look into delving into that free agent market, even if it's on a deal till January, just to get us through and provide us some natural left-sided cover.
You might say, for all we know, Craig, you might be doing that. That's something we're not a party to. But I agree with everything you're saying. We just need that balance correcting, because if Macca doesn't play, it looks totally different. And it's, they say the old saying that one player doesn't, or one man doesn't make a team. Well, in this case, it does, because it upsets the balance. And even when Oates is back, he's going to take, unless, a miracle happens and he's firing on all cylinders straight away, which I doubt very much, he's going to take 4 or 5 weeks and, 5 or 6 matches to get back to what he can do.
And we've got 2 problems with that as well, Nick, in terms of Rhys Oates. The injury that he's got, all it takes is a canny scout or a canny analyst to go, right, he's had a shoulder injury. So what I want you to do every time that you jump in for a header, a little bit harder on him, a little bit harder, because he won't be playing at 100% when he comes back. And then the other part of that is the Rhys Oates that we know and love from last season, who was getting in behind, rounding goalkeepers, showing blistering pace, was playing in a formation which is completely different to what we're playing now. And honestly, I don't think he'll suit what we've got at the minute.
No, I think the issue with Rhys Oates is he's one of those players that needs to be 100% or nothing, because he relies on him. Danny Rose was very similar. If Danny Rose wasn't at full pelt, running around, jumping, winning fouls and rolling all over the place and running people down, I just think Oates is going to, up front on his own, I think he will need support. And if he's played up front on his own and just left, because at times on Tuesday night, we didn't have anyone in our half. So if Oates was playing, he would literally probably be the only man in their half for a lot of the game. And that requires you to do a hell of a lot of running, bouncing off people, winning head. I mean, the amount of balls we played in the air for Will Swan, who was never going to, there's more likely of me winning them from the stand. It just wasn't going to happen. But we kept pelting balls up. And if Oates is playing up front on his own, with that injury as well, it's just, he's going to take a lot of time and he's going to need some support, I think, up there. I mean, the obvious one for me would be somebody like Hawkins up front with somebody like a Swan and an Oates to at least give them some target to aim at that's not him. But I can't see it. I think he'll be just thrown up front on his own like he has been before.
Yeah, just be slotted in, going, here you go, you've got your place back, go and do what you need to do. And it's the wrong approach to take with him. I saw somebody asking potentially about when he's going to be back, probably December time-ish. I would imagine he may get a run out in the EFL Trophy if he's back for that. I know Jimmy Knowles has potentially been earmarked for that as well, because he's sort of been back in the fold. But whether or not he'll have any form of impact, I think he'll probably go down the same street as James Gale and Jason Law, which will be a name which is banded about by us in the stands and is not seen too much on the team sheet, which is a crying shame. Plus, Jimmy Knowles' deal, I believe, is only till January as well. Keep your comments coming in. Kevin says, I would drop Perch and start JJ. Yeah, I have to agree with that, to be honest. Daniel says, certain players that aren't getting game time due to square pegs in round holes seem to be getting frustrated, and that can't be good for the dressing room. I have to agree with that as well. Kerry says the only person in the right position was Pim. Glenn says, feel sorry for Barry. He looks like he's not interested because he's not playing in the position that he's comfortable with, but that's just my opinion. He also says the squad is not big enough. A few injuries and we're in trouble. Mark says no pace. Where else have we got to? Jamie says, shocking performance. Never known a first half like it. Things need to change. Kerry says, I think Clough said he will try Oates for an FA Cup match in November, which would be Sheffield Wednesday. We'll talk a little bit more about that as well. Daniel says, if, and it's a big if, we was to get rid of Clough, what would that option be? I don't see us getting rid of Clough, and I don't think it would be a wise move. I think what we need to accept at the minute is the fact that, people are saying that we are better off points-wise at this point in the season than what we were last season. Well, that's because we had a blip before that. We haven't hit our blip yet. This is our blip. It's about how we get out of it, and Clough is the right person to steer the ship forward. It's an ongoing plan. It's not a quick fix. I just think we just need to get that win back at home, don't we? And just sort of have a little bit more certainty within the fan base, Nick.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that you don't really want to be making a change, I don't think, at the minute. I think Clough, unfortunately, is one of those that you give him 4 to 5 years and he will get you promoted. It's just how painful it is to get there. But I just think it's so visible at home, the frustration, isn't it? Away from home, I know that there was a couple of poor games, but when the fans were behind us at Doncaster and hopefully again tomorrow, and Barrow, the 2 trips to Barrow, we've done relatively okay. It's just the home would be nice to just restart again and start the win. We couldn't have picked 2 worse teams because Swindon worked us out very, very quickly, and it looked like Bradford had just watched the Swindon game, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
We probably did their scouting for them. If they'd have watched the Swindon game, they'd have known exactly what to do. And they did. So I certainly don't think we should be swapping Clough, but he just needs to take on board a little bit. And whether he's getting the right advice from his coaches, I don't know. I know Seamus obviously left. I don't know the circumstances around that. But it does seem that he just needs somebody to have a word in his ear going, look, we can't keep doing these formational and player changes. We just need to stick with a formation, go with it, and build a team around that fits that. And I think that's just where he's going wrong. I don't think there's anything more major than that.
Ben says, one thing is certain, our defence, especially Perch, looked like they were game watching yards off. Doesn't take much to work out what we need to do to keep Cook out of the game. We just didn't deliver. Yeah, it was one of those where I think a bad night all round on that point. I want to touch a little bit upon the age of the squad. There are certain players now who are perhaps are reaching the peak. I don't know whether it's something which we can be addressed quickly or anything like that. I just think we've got to find the right balance. And I think one thing we've sort of hinted at quite heavily, Alan, is the fact that we have got too many midfielders. And I'm going to throw a curveball suggestion out there and see what comes back. And that is, I know we get frustrated with square pegs in round holes, and we don't like square pegs in round holes. But twice, Ollie Clark has gone to centre-half, and twice he has played absolutely immaculately back there. And if we're struggling for options, we're struggling for leadership, we're struggling for a little bit of pace at the back, why not take the fall on that one and go, right, Ollie, you're going to go centre-half, you're going to play in there, we're going to develop you in there, and then that will free up some more space in the midfield for people not getting in each other's way and just allow a little bit more balance. Because for me, Alan, if you're going to ask me who our best centre-half is at the minute, it's Ollie Clark.
I'm going to say is that from what I've seen of him, and obviously Tuesday night, he played really well. He was bringing the ball out comfortable. He was quite confident on the ball, which he is anyway. And he's got a good, strong tackle on him, and he can bring the ball out. But the thing is with Ollie Clark, if worst comes to the worst, he is liable for a yellow or a red card. That would be my only concern. But there again, I suppose you can say the same for Hawkins. He's done that in the past, although he's got a lot better just lately.
Nick, what's your thoughts on that? Ollie Clark from the edge of a cliff with Nathan Edge to central midfield and back in the fold to centre half.
I must admit he's played reasonably well. But then again, to be fair, Bowery had a decent half playing centre half at some point. I think everyone's played centre back at some point this season. I don't know if Akins has. I don't think he has yet. But I suppose his size may be the only thing, potentially. But I suppose he may not be as small as he looks from the side of the pitch. But maybe size an issue. But again, you don't have to be 6'5". Sometimes the taller you are, the less mobile you become. So he just needs to stick with what he wants as his best pairing and stick with it, because confidence and developing relationships at the back, I think, is really important. It's fundamental. I think very rarely do you get promoted playing 10 different centre-back pairings. You look back to the last time we got promoted out of the Football League when we're talking about Les Robinson and Barrett and Reddington. It was those three, but it was just those three. It wasn't that all of a sudden play random strikers at centre-back. He just needs to pick 2 or at least 3, whatever formation he plays, and just try and stick with it.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Alan, I think one thing we are missing a little bit is identity at the moment. We've hit a rut. There's no hiding away from that. And I think anyone that does try and do that, I think is probably kidding themselves. We've got to ride it out like we did last season. But I just feel in general, even when we've been winning games sometimes, that we are lacking a little bit of identity from where we were last season. There's a reason we got to where we were. There's also a reason why we didn't get promoted. But I think the balance in between is that identity and that character within the squad. We need something to happen. We need something to click. But what is it?
Well, that's the magic. That's the magic $6 million question, isn't it? But I mean, take probably 4 weeks ago when we were all on about in your HQ studio. We're all on about Triple H and how well they were doing. And, things were going swimmingly. We were winning. We've hit a bit of a bad patch. We've had a couple of injuries. People have, dipped a little bit in form. And it just takes things like that to knock us on the head a little bit. So, keep positive, keep confident. And I'm sure he'll pull it round. But like I say, Nigel Clough is definitely the man for the job.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about just keeping that belief, because
It is.
when you look at things as well, Nick, yeah, all right, we've lost a couple of games at home. We've had a tremendous run. It had to happen sometime. We just got to bite our lips and get on with it. We're getting the results away from home. And as long as we can keep, consistent and stop the losing run at home, I think that's the next important thing, isn't it? It's just about hitting that reset button and starting again like we had to do last season.
Yeah, we certainly haven't got a bad side, and we're certainly in a good position. I mean, if we'd have won any of those two games, I think if we'd have beaten Bradford, we'd have been 3 points above them, or certainly level on points. So, yeah, we're not in a bad position. I think it's just the two last games have just been so in your face bad at home, and I think everyone sees it at home, don't they? You can be as bad as you like away, and the majority of people won't see it. It's just so in your face bad, I think, for the Swindon game and then for the first half at Bradford. I think that was the problem. There's been a few issues. I mean, earlier games where we drew 0-0 with Newport, that was a bit dire. And I suppose you had the Crawley and Sutton games. But it seems like we're hit and miss, aren't we? We're either brilliant or we're not very good at all. And it's just finding a bit of middle ground consistency, I think. But yeah, he's got to turn it around. We've got to win at home, and that's the next one, obviously, tomorrow away. But we need to just start winning at home and getting a settled team.
I'm going to say, if you turn it on its, sorry to interrupt, Craig, if you turn it on its head, and we were winning all the matches at home, won the last two, and we didn't win the other two away, we'd still be having this conversation, because the home run would be going, we'd still be there, we'd still be firing on all cylinders at home. It's just unfortunate that it's like brought it to a head because we have lost at home and we've played, rather poor, and people have worked us out.
That's the thing. I think it's the magnifying element of it. We've got an epic home crowd now, Nick, where we're filling up the stadium every week. There was only 7,000 there on Tuesday night. People have invested at us at home. The more people that are there and seeing us play poorly, the more easily the frustration goes. And to coin a phrase from what we used on the podcast a couple of seasons ago, we cannot allow toxicity. The bell's there somewhere. To creep in to our home support. We have to keep that tight, and I think we've got to acknowledge that is our key factor. Keeping that noise going, keeping believing, and getting it back to where it was. Getting it back to the reason why people brought those season tickets in the first place.
Yeah, I think it's that is a big point, isn't it? It's just at home, you have to go for it, and you have to try and attack. And I think the last few games, you look at the Newport game and Hartlepool and a few others, the Hartlepool one, we didn't play particularly bad, but the last three, we've just been, we haven't looked like scoring. And like you said earlier, with the 10 minutes of added on time, it could have been 100 and we wouldn't have scored. I think the home crowd would accept a 5-2 defeat if you absolutely go for it and concede 5 and score 2. If we'd have gone for it against Bradford and lost, it would have been different. But we went for it for probably about 10 minutes after they got their red card. And then we just started giving the ball away again. If we'd have gone for it from minute 1 and gone 4-3-3, put wingers up, and attacked, I don't think the crowd would turn. I don't think we're a quick crowd to turn. We just like to see attacking football, and I think that's what we need to get back to, is trying to attack teams rather than sitting back, and how we have done the last couple of games. We've just been picked off. Yeah,
that's the key for our crowd at home this season. Come out the traps flying, and no matter the result, I think everyone goes home relatively happy. Come out of the traps sluggish, and everyone goes home annoyed. And I think that's something which perhaps Nigel Clough needs to remember. Well, we are running vastly out of time because, of course, the power cut last night means that we're now less than 24 hours away from a trip to Rochdale, which means that we must turn our attention quickly to podcast predictions. And let's have a look at that. So Nathan in the group chat has said 2-1 win, 22 minutes for the golden goal. Alan, yours was a...
Mine's 2-0 win, 19th minute.
Nick, handing it over to you.
I'm going to go very pessimistically for a 2-1 defeat and a goal in the 12th minute.
Ooh.
It's only going to say that because I'm going. That's probably why. I
Well.
wasn't going. I'd probably say a win.
Right. When was the last away game you went to? Doncaster.
I think it was it was Doncaster. Yeah. So that, I mean, obviously that was a positive experience. And to be fair, we have lost the ones I haven't been to. But to be fair, I don't. Not normally when I go, we do tend to play well away from home. Oldham and a few others last season, Northampton. But yeah, it's I can just. I'm going to go against the grain on that one, I think.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, to be fair, it was Doncaster where it sort of started to kick into life. So maybe you're going to end it and then it's going to flip back to the home form.
It.
So
exactly.
Maybe that's... I sort of get it. It's that sort of passive. It's that sort of whatever the word is. I've gone out of my mind. My prediction, I'm also going to go pessimistic. Pessimistic Craig is back. I'm going to go for a 2-0 defeat. And I'm going to go for the first goal in the 32nd minute, mostly because I don't think we're going to have any strikers. Not a nice picture of Will Swan that was doing the round, sat in what looked to be A&E the other night after the game, and Reece Oates not available. Jordan Bowery likely to play in goal. Lucas Akins likely to be playing right back, and that just means that we're left with someone like, I don't know, who do we fancy up front? Riley Harbottle up front, anyone? Well, mind you,
he came off
for a bit. Yeah, exactly.
It's amazing that we're saying we haven't got a striker when you've got Akins, Bowery, Hawkins, Gale, and you just know that none of them are going to be anywhere near the opposition's penalty box.
Exactly. Let's have a quick look at the Mansfield Matters podcast prediction league table. This is after the Barrow result on Saturday. Forgot what day it was then because I can't find the latest one. So here we go. This is after Barrow. So Alan, you were still top of the league on 24 points. In our little Mansfield Matters group as well, you were also top. I was second on 20. Cam was bottom on 13 points. Nick, let's have a look where you are. You've got 3 points.
I always forget. That's my problem. I always forget.
Yeah. 3 points so far this season. So you're not doing too bad because there are people on worse. Top sort of few people. Alan is top, as we say. David Shetlife in second. Adam Crump in third. Kathy Holmes in fourth. Me in fifth. Steve Naden in sixth. Ben is in seventh. JS is in 8th, Nathan is in 9th, and Clive is in 10th. But that may have changed after the Bradford game. So make sure you get your predictions in using the link in the description. That is the only way that you can get involved with podcast predictions. Any podcast predictions that are made in the chat will not count. You have to use the link in the description for it to count, and you must do it no later than 1 hour and 1 minute before kickoff. There are still a handful of seats left on the coach to Rochdale tomorrow. So if you want to get yourself a last-minute seat there, tickets available still, I believe, on the day as well. The number to call is going to be read out by Mr. Alan Wilson.
07967 689 597.
There we go. And we can't end this podcast without Nick giving us another final little look at his latest shirt collection. You've now moved into the business of not just buying, but you've also moved into the seller's market, Nick, haven't you, as well?
Oh.
Yeah, well, I ended up with a couple of duplicate. I don't sell the match ones. I never sell the match ones. So I had a couple of replicas. But the one I sold was that one. And the reason I sold it is because I ended up with this one, which was worn when the Stags got promoted against Rochdale. A fan ran onto the pitch and got this one. So you can see the patches on it somewhere. And this was worn on the day. I believe it was worn by Wayne Fairclough, but it was usually worn by Steve Charles. But it was worn by Wayne Fairclough. He wore 11 for one game that season, and I believe a fan ran on the pitch and took it off him. So I've managed to purchase that and swap the replica one for a match-worn one, which is what that is.
Go.
So I'm really pleased with that one, actually. That's a nice one. I had the Logan Poppy one that I put on today.
Very poignant today,
which is very poignant today, but it also shows the standard Stags sticking a league patch over an FA Cup patch to save a little bit of cash, which I like. And then obviously you've got the Andy Cup one. I also got a Paul Connor one in there as well that I bought, a long sleeve one, which is a bit of a random one as well. So yeah, that was the big purchase of the month. It was the only purchase of the month actually. But I was.
You all right?
That's why I sold the other one.
You okay?
Everyone's doing it at the minute. Everyone's doing it. Normally it was like
this is what you've started.
Now there's like everyone. There's
You've
5
come
or
on this
6 people for one.
You've come on this podcast. We've given you like local exposure. I was going to say national exposure, but I'm not that arrogant. And you know, you've now started this trend. So much so, and we've got to address it, that people have started stealing some of your pictures and posting them on Facebook to try and fob it off as their own. You've created a Facebook account. Yeah,
I was forced to. I was forced under duress to create a Facebook account. But to be fair, I like it. I like because it's random. I mean, I weirdly had a chat with Neil McKenzie, who was talking about you, weirdly, Craig, today.
Was he?
Yes, because I was trying to get shirts off him, but in the last one he gave away to a certain Mansfield Matters headquarters wall.
I mean, I've got the one.
It's there.
That one, no.
Is that not what one?
That's not match one. That is my first Mansfield shirt.
Has he given you one though? He was under the impression he's given you. Oh, yeah,
yeah.
I thought, yeah.
But I don't know where it is.
That's the one you've lost.
Shush! I've not lost it. Right.
I hope Macca's not watching this.
Macca,
I promise I won't tell him.
I know where it is. I do know where it is.
We'll keep quiet.
Hand on heart, I know. Hand on heart, I definitely know where it is. And you know, I'm moving house soon. Touch wood that everything goes swimmingly. So I will be in a desperate hunt to locate it, and then it will be the first shirt that I get on the wall. But yeah, the only match worn one. That's a lie. I've got 2 match worn shirts. I've got the Mickey Boulding one behind me, and then we randomly sponsored Nicky Jose. That's his match worn black away shirt on the wall as well. But yeah, I have
Chris
got
Clements one somewhere. Oh, that was that one.
Yeah.
I think I've shown that one before. I've got a feeling I have shown that one before.
I do have a Neil McKenzie match worn shirt. Yeah.
Yes, you do. Somewhere.
And what I am desperate for is obviously on that one. It was in the conference years, and I think he had something like 33. Because we had about 90 players in the squad, so it was 33 the squad number he had. I've got that one. I want the 14 one, because that was the first. Yeah.
Well, I'm hopefully closer to one of the. I was talking to somebody at work today, and he said, "Oh yeah, my daughter-in-law's best mates with the Stags player." I went, "Oh right, who is it?" She went, "Oh, it's Reece Oakes. I can get him on the phone." I was like, "Oh my!" So I'm working on. That's the next one I'm working on, but I don't know how much that's going to turn up.
Well, we'll wait and see. I'm sure we'll get an update from you later on in the podcast series. Let's be honest, it probably will be next week because everyone seems to be getting rid of us at the moment. And I think once you've got past 5 appearances, Alan, I think he becomes a regular anyway, doesn't he?
I'm waiting for the mug. I'm waiting for the mug. I'm going tomorrow. If you want to bring the mug with you, Craig, I'm going.
Do you know what? I will. I will do. In fact, talk amongst yourselves. I've got to dig one out.
You're going to get the mug. You're going to get the mug tomorrow, Nick.
I will, yeah. And I'll have to carry that round all game.
It's going to fetch it. I think it might be boxed as well.
Oh, wow, that's even better.
I mean, that you don't
get much better than that, do you?
No expense spared at Mansfield Matters.
It is boxed. It's in a box lot. I'm all over that. Look at that. It's in a box lot.
There you go.
I told you.
Just make sure this is not one of the broken ones.
Yeah, I don't want a broken one.
No. You want one with a handle on.
No, it's all good and fine, working fat. Also, this is yours tomorrow. I'll meet you.
I'll find you.
I will see you at some point in the game, and I will hand over
afterwards, so I haven't got to carry it.
Hopefully before, so I don't have to carry it.
That's going to bring us luck tomorrow. Now that is
half time. Yeah, the lucky mug.
Yeah, lucky half-time mug. There you go. Nick, thanks as ever for joining us. Of course, you are now on Facebook as well. Where can people find you on there?
Mansfield Town shirts everywhere, I think, apart from Twitter, which is MTFC shirts. But I'm there.
Well, now on Twitter you can pay for a verified tick. So
no, but I can't justify a little tick.
Just ask Elon Musk which shirt he wants, and he'll give you a tick for it. Always negotiations to be done, Nick. Always negotiations to be done. Oh, there we go. Right, Alan, look after yourself. I will see you next week as we talk about whatever it is we've got to talk about. We've not got a game in midweek, have we, this week? Don't worry.
Not as far as I know, no.
Is the draw tonight for the pizza trophy? Is that tonight?
10 o'clock, isn't it?
I thought that was last night, but
that was the Carabao, wasn't it, last night?
Yeah, there we go.
Just a quick one, Craig. You know how you said it was going to be Bolton, Everton under 21s or whoever else? Somebody else put on their podcast, on their wall, whatever. They were 3 different teams that they got, not to the ones that you'd got. So I'm not saying you're wrong, because you're usually spot on with these things. But I was just wondering why, they were different. Is there a possibility it could have been, different teams? I'm hoping for Everton under 21, so it'll be at home.
Yeah, I'm just having a little look at see if I can find the.
It's down to the last 32 now, isn't it?
I believe
it is,
so.
Yeah, I believe I found the news article. So what I'll do, Restream has got some new features. So let's see if this works. Let's try that one. Let's try that one, and hopefully you'll be able to see. Can you see that on the screen?
Yeah.
Round of
32 numbers.
Yeah.
That's it.
There we go. Right. So this is the article on the screen. So group winners will be drawn at home against a runner-up from another group. In order to achieve this, each draw is split into 2 sections as detailed below. Now, this is why I believe that will only play Bolton, Port Vale, or Salford, or Everton under 21s. Because if you look in draw B, you've got Grimsby there, who won our group. So surely we can't play Grimsby again. I'm sure that basically is what the wording means.
No, it's got to be one of those.
Isn't
it still North versus it's North, they keep the North bits and the South bits separate.
Yeah, right up until the Northern final, which is essentially the semi-final of the competition. So it stays regional. That's what the wording means. At home against a runner-up from another group. So that means that we will only play.
That one, doesn't it?
Yeah. So it'll be Bolton, Port Vale, or Salford away. And then I believe, and I could be wrong on this, if we draw Everton under 21s, because they're an under 21 side, we would then become the home team.
Yeah.
I'd take any of them. I probably would like to avoid Port Vale for obvious reasons, but
we'll get Salford away, won't we? We know we will.
Yeah.
That'll be the draw.
That's what Clive said.
If any, I'd like Bolton, because that's
Bolton
the
away would be all right.
Only ground out of all of them that I've not been to. So Bolton will do. So there you go. Right, that was a nice little added extra to the Mansfield Matter podcast. Keep your eye out on all the social media channels for who we will face, and no doubt we will talk about it and moan about it next week when inevitably we get drawn against Barrow and everyone goes, how on earth did that rule come around? It's the footballing gods for you. It's the footballing gods. Nick, Alan, thanks as always for getting involved. We will see you next time on the show for the fans, by the fans. This is the Mansfield Matters podcast. Thank God the electric stayed on.
Well, that's all we've got time for on this week's Mansfield Matters podcast. Thanks, as always, for getting involved. And, of course, my extended thanks goes to the Mansfield Matters podcast panel for joining us tonight. Alan Wilson and Nick of Mansfield Town Shirts fame. He's now on Facebook, so make sure you go and give him a follow. Do you know what? I think he's actually nearly been on this podcast, this series, more times than actual regular member can. Maybe we're going to have to do some January transfer business. Who knows? Who knows? As always, don't forget to get involved with podcast predictions. The link that you need is in the description. You must do it no later than 1 hour and 1 minute before kick-off on Saturday afternoon as the Stags head for Rochdale. We'll be back sometime next week. Make sure you stay tuned to our social media to find out when. This is the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield matters even when you're having a blip. Goodbye.